Well, I don't think he bent the knee. I think he'd already had his knees taken out by CZ earlier in the week with two tweets where he essentially questioned FTX and their association with Alameda. And I think that this obviously, created a bank run. And I think that, people thought that Voyager was very safe. People thought that FTX was very safe until 3 or 4 days ago. And so they're going to start, I think, doing some analysis about where am I keeping my coins? Is it safe? And maybe it wasn't something that 2 weeks ago or even 6 months ago you thought was important. But I think after today, people are going to realize that it's very important that you know where your coins are and who's looking after them.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Altcoin Daily. My name's Austin, joined with returning guest, Chief Business Officer of INX, a digital asset fully registered with the SEC exchange, Douglas Borthwick. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me again. It's great to be here. What
Absolutely.
an exciting day, huh?
Oh my God, man. These last 48 hours culminating to Sam Bankman-Fried bending the knee to CZ in a sense for the folks at home. And we haven't even released our daily video on this yet, but it appears that FTX was over leveraged in some sense, and CZ of Binance, or Binance, now has a letter of intent to buy the exchange. Crazy times. What's your summation on that?
Well, I don't think he bent the knee. I think he'd already had his knees taken out by CZ earlier in the week with two tweets where he essentially questioned FTX and their association with Alameda. And I think that this obviously, created a bank run. And it literally was a bank run. It looks like, there have been billions that have been taken out very quickly, and they didn't have the resources to follow them. People weren't coming back into deposit. And you result in this accident where you have a titan that absolutely falls, and Binance is left, holding, being the champion in this. So really astounding. But this isn't the first time we've seen something like this. I think it's the first time we've seen a war like this happen in real time over a couple of days. And crypto moves very, very quickly. But, we also saw this with Voyager, and we saw it with Celsius, where you get this uncertainty. It drives people into a certain habit or buying. And suddenly, you get this feeding frenzy and you see a collapse of exchanges. And, one of the things that I find interesting is this is the traditional model for crypto exchanges. Most crypto exchanges, they sit there and they'll take in people's money, and maybe they'll reinvest that money, they'll rehypothecate it. It's in a big pool, and people don't understand they're signing over their money. And maybe that money is then put into longer term instruments so they can earn yield, because a lot of these exchanges, they give people yield for staking or for holding your coins. And then when there is a run, there's nothing there behind it in order to back it up. And really, I mean, this is something that INX, I guess, we looked at this a long time ago, and maybe people think it's boring. I know that when I was going around looking for investors in our company a long time ago, they always said, why can't you be like Voyager or FTX? And this is really what we were asked, because, you're not offering staking services, you're not reinvesting customers' funds. And why aren't you doing that? And the reality is because we thought it was wrong. We didn't think it was right. And we want to be, I guess, fully regulated. Well, not I guess, I mean, we're fully regulated. We've got a broker dealer registered with the SEC and FINRA. We've got a transfer agent. We've got an ATS. We've got MT licenses across the United States. And still, there's things that we don't do. We don't put a shit coin on our exchange and allow people to trade it. I mean, we don't take, hundreds of thousands of dollars from someone and say, okay, we'll list your token now, we'll hype it up. We don't do that. We're in the business of people coming to us, feeling comfortable, feeling secure, giving us their crypto, and we hold it for them. We don't hold it for them. BitGo does. And we don't sit there and rehypothecate it. We don't invest on the back of it. Rather, it's just being held for them, just as they're expecting. And then if someone does on our security side, the actual dollars that they give us are held in a bank account that's held in their name. And if they have securities, they custody the securities themselves in their own wallets. So we look at things in a very, very different manner, I think, than others do. When it comes to withdrawals of cryptocurrency, if you put crypto on our platform, you can take it out at any time in any amount. There is no, and why? It's because it's backed by that crypto you gave us. It's sitting there in the account. And so we've got a very, very different model from others. Now, it's less exciting, perhaps, But everyone I've found always says that they want to be bankless until they get punched in the face. And there's been a lot of faces getting punched lately. And I think that, people are probably looking for safety in this storm, or for a regulated institution. They love crypto. I love crypto. They love Bitcoin. They love Ethereum. There's a lot of different coins out there, and they love digital securities, but they're kind of sick of getting rug pulled. And I think that, what we're offering is something that, yes, we don't have the budget of some of these other companies that are out there to go out there and sponsor a stadium or this or that or the next thing. But that doesn't mean we're not offering less safety. What we're offering, I believe, is a lot more safety.
So essentially what these big crypto exchanges did, like FTX, they just ran too far, too fast. They didn't, a lot like, maybe this is a bad relation, maybe it's good, a lot like Terra Luna, Luna Classic. A lot of these crypto companies in general are just running too far, too fast. And INX, which you've been on our channel since last year, talking about the benefits, you're fully regulated with the SEC. You have so much enforcement or people oversight looking at you. You're doing the safest play. And while that was boring maybe last year, now more and more people are seeing, damn, we need some safer options out there.
I think so. It depends on who you are, right? I think that the investors are probably looking for safety, and a lot of people self-custody. And that's probably like the Bitcoin maxim, right? Is you got to self-custody, you got to hold it in your own wallet. And I agree with that. But when it comes down to the trading as well, you don't expect to sell dollars, buy Bitcoin, have that Bitcoin then invested by the company that you deposited it with, and maybe you'll never see that Bitcoin again. And it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. And so I think that, people are going to go back to basics and say, well, how does my grandfather hold his stock, or how is this held, or how is that? They go to large financial institutions that are regulated. And certainly regulation doesn't go under the maxim of crypto. It's about freedom, right? But at the same time, you can still have freedom, but you can still be regulated. And I think that that's the message that we'd like to give people.
It appears that at this current moment, CZ won. He did things right, and now Binance, still one of the largest exchanges in existence.
Did he do things right? Did he do?
Well, please comment on that.
Well, today, let's say JP Morgan wants to buy Chase Manhattan Bank. And the day before, JP Morgan says, you know what, we already own a big chunk of Chase Manhattan. We're going to start selling the equity. And the equity gets absolutely pummeled. And people say, well, the equity's getting pummeled. I'm taking my money out. And then Chase runs out of money. And JP Morgan walks in and says, you know what, we can help. Sorry, Chase and JP Morgan, no, it's different companies still, I think. But the net of it is, when a competitor pushes down the price of another in order to get it at a lower price, it's an interesting tactic. And you wouldn't find that in a regulated equities world. But again, we're not dealing with the regulated world, are we? Here we're dealing with these exchange tokens that, what are they backed by? Like, what was the FTX token backed by? And the answer there is, well, I don't know. Whereas, INX, we have an exchange token, and it's backed by a percentage of our profits, 40% of our profits, going forward. And it's also backed by a cash fund. And so if it goes down to a certain level, or if we were to go under, the cash fund actually pays back the token holders. And so we did it in a very different way. Also, I can tell you every single holder of my token, who their names are. I've got the KYC, AML, and all of them. And yet most of these exchange tokens that are floating around, they have no idea who owns them, right? Because there's no whitelist, there's no walled garden. And so it ends up that you're left with something like the Celsius token, or maybe the Voyager token, or maybe even the FTX token, and you're kind of wondering, what's the value of this now? With the INX token, there is no question about what the value is. And that's a big difference between a regulated exchange or exchange token and every other exchange token that exists.
I saw that INX, the Twitter account, and I'll put the link to the specific tweet down below, put out a very relevant tweet regarding the situation with FTX Binance. Did we hit everything on that, or just final thoughts based on the current situation?
I mean, I think that Twitter thread's very correct, but there's more. But wait, there's more. We've been thinking about bankruptcy, especially when it comes down to this arena, crypto arena, because obviously you saw it with Celsius and you saw it with Voyager, and now who knows what's going to happen with FTX. It's a non-binding agreement. Remember, this may just be a pause. And within all of this, we thought the creditors, sometimes they're left just holding the bag. They're told, you're getting a haircut. and you're going to be happy with that. And our answer is, well, why give them you can give them a haircut, but give them a security token as well that's linked to the new company, so that then at least the creditors can get something back. Give them some equity, give them a percentage of the profits in the new co, because then they're going to stick around and they're still going to use that product. Maybe not Celsius's product, but the Voyager product, everyone loved. Everyone loved it. And I'm sure that if a new company came out of there, then I'm sure that people would want to own a little piece of it. And I think that, INX, we have that solution. We've taken that pathway before with our own token, and we're willing to teach others and to be involved and show people that you can use a security token for bankruptcy. Madoff's victims are still getting paid off today. I don't know, was it 10 years ago, 15 years ago? I mean, we were all wearing shorts back when that happened. But at the same time, they're still getting paid back. If you had a security token, after that bankruptcy, then you'd be getting payments into your wallet of USDC or whatever, and you'd be pretty happy because you'd be getting your money back. But if you'd taken that haircut as it was initially, yeah, but absolutely nothing. But since then, people have been made a lot more whole. And so with bankruptcies over time, there is a solution, and there's an efficient solution through security tokens to make people whole. And I want really creditor committees all around the world to listen to this and hear it and demand that a security token be part of any sort of settlement.
Wait, and reiterate that for me, because I still want to make sure I understand. If you hold a security token, it's easier to make users whole. How come?
Well, if you think about it, I think that, in let's say Voyager, there's one company that was in there bidding. I don't know if that company exists anymore. Looks like they won it. And I think it was the 70%, they were paying back people 70%. You're taking a 30% haircut. Well, instead of a haircut, if instead you got a security token linked to the new co, that would be fantastic, because then they've got that. Plus, over time, they may get back their other 30%. They may be made whole. And I think that that's important. What I'm thinking about right now is that poor person that got stuck and was absolutely run over. They were picking up pennies before a steamroller. The steamroller hit, and they're like, where am I now? And you're being told by the bankruptcy court, you know what? You're getting a haircut. Tough luck. You should have read the small print. And what I'm saying is that a lot of people don't read the small print. And yet, if the new company or any new company comes out of existence from that, and you want to keep all of these people that were using that product, well, you've got to keep them involved. If you give them a security token linked to maybe the equity or to future profits, they'll stay involved because they'll want to continue using that product. They'll want to continue to see its success. Why? Because then they get paid back.
I want to talk about INX into 2023 specifically, but just first, final thoughts on this whole Sam Bankman-Fried FTX CZ situation.
Well, the final thoughts is a non-binding LOI is not very useful. Binding LOIs are always much more useful than non-binding. So I think that this is a pause right now, and let's all see what happens in the markets, because I think maybe CZ was worried about an absolute collapse in these things. Voyager had and Celsius both had big moves in the market. And now you see FTX, which I think a lot of people 4 or 5 days ago thought was one of the darling childs. And now they're in trouble. And so let's just pause, reflect, figure out what's going on, buy some more time. A non-binding LOI can do that. But I think, lawyers will probably start seeing through that very, very quickly. Now, what about us for 2023?
Yeah.
We've just started primary raises, and these primary raises are investment opportunities for people with security tokens. These are guys that are raising capital the same way that we did. We've got a Chinese trucking company called TruckPal. I've got another one, Advent Entertainment. Now, Stan Lee, you ever heard of him? He's behind Marvel Universe.
Absolutely.
He had another IP called the Legion of Five. And the Legion of Five has been undeveloped, and it's owned by Advent Entertainment, 50% of this, and they're going to start developing it. And it's an opportunity for guys to get involved with this new IP, which I think, we'll see how it goes. But very informed staff, very informed guys working on some Academy Award winners. Very exciting. People should go take a look.
And that security token would get the individuals access ownership in that IP.
What they do is first they get, I think that it's, you put in $1 and you get, after you've got $1.20 back on it, on each token, then you get 10% or 20% of the royalties going forward on this. Now, royalties don't just come from movies. They come from toys, clothing. I don't know if you ever bought a Star Wars thing, but I'm still buying Star Wars stuff for my kids, and they're in their 20s. So, it's never ending. Once you have an IP and you can develop it, who knows where it could go. But that's just to start, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
we've got a lot more issuances we're going to be raising capital for, and we've got a lot more exciting things happening. The best way to learn about it is just follow us on Twitter, INX_group.
Dope. I'll put a link down below as well as your personal Twitter. I follow you. Is the biggest challenge for any exchange in 2023 just user acquisition? Like, how do you fight the bear markets and try to grow?
I don't know if it's user acquisition. I think there's a lot of users that are wondering, where should I be right now? I think the biggest challenge is the cost of user acquisition, in terms of not everyone has the budget that CZ has, not everyone has the budget that FTX used to have, and not everyone has the budget that Coinbase has. And so we all have to be able to go out there and tell everyone what the differences are. I'll tell you how I differ from Coinbase. I offer digital securities, and that's different. And that's exciting. And I think there's going to be a lot of surprises coming down the line when it comes down to that field.
Will INX ever go public?
We already are public, right?
We're already,
our security token is the first ever public security token. So it trades on our ATS. It's full prospectus behind it. And we're also public on the NEO in Canada under INXD. And we're also on the OTC under INXDF. So we're public, we're transparent. We're very, very open with all of our numbers.
Dope. Well, I'm glad I had you on just for the full synopsis. Douglas, in our final 5 minutes, what final thoughts do you have for just the average crypto user out there?
I think the average crypto user out there right now is probably sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? If the darlings are in trouble, and I think that, people thought that Voyager was very safe. People thought that FTX was very safe until 3 or 4 days ago. And so they're going to start, I think, doing some analysis about, where am I keeping my coins? Is it safe? Is this something that's regulated? Is it transparent? Do I actually know what they do with my coins when I put them on the exchange? And I think once they've done that analysis, then they'll probably start thinking about, well, maybe I should talk to the exchanges that I've never heard of before, like INX, because maybe they're doing something differently. And maybe it wasn't something that 2 weeks ago or even 6 months ago you thought was important. But I think after today, people are going to realize that it's very important that you know where your coins are and who's looking after them.
Links for all your stuff down below. And I do want to ask you before I forget, what's your take on macro right now? You used to work in money and trading money, correct? So yeah. DXY going high, but DXY.
Well, look, DXY, the dollar index, is always going to be a headwind against crypto, right? Because when the dollar is strong, everything else is weaker. Now, you saw some topping out in the dollar lately when the Japanese came in and intervened in dollar yen. I doubt that that's going to be the last time they intervene in dollar yen. But when the Japanese are intervening, it means they're also talking to other central banks. Europe doesn't like having a low euro. The UK doesn't like having a very weak currency either, especially as you're going into these cold winters. And in cold winter, you got to buy energy. And you know where energy prices are? Through the roof. And so having a weak currency and very high energy is a disaster, because it means you're going to have very high inflation. How do you fix that? Well, I think Biden said that a strong dollar isn't a US problem, it's a worldwide problem. And I think he's correct there in that it is a worldwide problem. And at some point, I think the US is going to do something to have the US dollar weaken. The Fed just raised 75 basis points. Obviously, a pause would make sense, or even them signaling to do 50 rather than 75 the next time is going to see the dollar start to weaken. When the dollar starts to weaken, then I expect crypto to go much higher.
Would you think that this winter in macro and in crypto will get colder, or is it just a waiting game with the Fed?
Well, again, the Fed is the waiting game. It's a very strong headwind. And it's not just the Fed, right? Other current countries have been raising interest rates too. So it used to be you'd go into USDC and you pick up 8%. And that was great because interest rates were 0 at your bank. And now the interest rates at your bank are 4.5%. You're wondering, well, is it a good risk? And so at some point, I think people are looking for lower interest rates to be more excited by it. But I do think that we are seeing a lot more institutional adoption of crypto. And that institutional adoption is going to come very, very strong in 2023.
All right, Douglas, I'll let you go. I encourage the audience to comment down below. All your links in the description. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.